Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks, hello everybody. Thanks for the invitation. I will just share my presentation. Okay, I think you can see it. So yeah, I am French political scientist, and as Daniel told, my work focus on the recomposition of public institutions in the digital era. And to do that, I focus on the production and the use of data by public and private sectors in urban policies. And today I will present you some results from research on the digital platform Waze. And first, I would like to remind you that public administrations have always used data, and at the national or at the local level, data are traditional tools of government, such as statistics or accounting or benchmarking. And but however, today we assist at the emergence of a new form of quantification, which is commonly called big data. Big data can be defined as a large amount of massive, exhaustive, various and real-time data. And this quantification is new for two reasons. First, there's a change of level. Our digital society produces a huge amount of data. But there is also a change in the nature of the data itself. A new kind of data is produced, the digital traces. Before, data were mainly static and descriptive, for instance, a map or a census or photography of the territory or the population at one precise moment. Now, with the development of digital technologies, and especially with the smartphone, we can record in real time every activity, all individual practices of the city, all behavior of people. But jointly with this new form of quantification, new actors have appeared in the urban government, the digital platforms. Digital platforms activity is based on their capacity of collecting, analyzing, and and using these digital traces to offer a service of intermediation between an offer and a demand. And so the question I want to address today is to what extent this new form of quantification disrupts local public policies. And to tackle this question, I will follow two hypotheses during this presentation. And the first one is that by offering a new representation of the world, big data disturbs the stable advancement of reality constructed by public institutions. New actors, platforms, can establish alternative forms of regulation of the urban space that provoke tensions and conflict with local authorities. However, when we focus on the production of this new data, we see also modalities of convergence between these two realities, between public and private data. And this allows new form of coordination, new modes of government of the city through data between public and private actors. I will try to demonstrate that today with the case of the Waze application. So Waze is a platform company who founded in 2008, which offers a GPS-based navigation application program. Its originality is to be based on the map data and traffic information provided in real time by its users. With a little bit more than 120 million of active users all over the world, Waze has become a significant platform in the transportation sector. And in France, France is one of Waze's top countries. The app is massively used with more than 12 million of active users each month, which raise issues for public local authorities in charge of traffic regulation. And yeah, Waze was Google acquired Waze in 2013 for a little bit less than $1 billion. And and because Waze is also an advertising company, digital advertising company. And just a map with the number of users in 2018, which was the year I conducted the analysis. So here's a map that indicates the top cities in the world. And you can notice that Waze is mainly used in the US, in Latin America, and in Europe, and in Southeast Asia. Concerning cities, New York is first, Sao Paulo second, and Paris third, just before Los Angeles, which is quite interesting as Los Angeles is a city of car. So Waze is mainly used in France, as you can see also in this map focusing on Europe. You can remark that Paris is the main city with 3 times more users than in London, the second one. And you have 5 French cities in the top 10 of European cities. And another important fact is that as a GPS, Waze is mainly used on a daily basis for commuting. You can notice on this chart the weekdays and the morning and evening peaks of simultaneous active users. So for driving from home to work and from work to home. And Waze is quite interesting because it has provoked some conflicts with local authorities in charge of regulating traffic. And I would like to, in this first part of my talk, compare the 2 ways of regulating traffic. The one by the traditional one by public authorities, and the new one by this platform, Waze, which is totally independent from local government. And I will focus on the data used for both regulation. So traditional traffic regulation by public authorities use data which are attached to infrastructure. And as you can see in this photo, there is a chain of traffic data, which begins with magnetic sensors under the roadway, which detects the presence of car. The signals collected by this sensor are then sent through a complex fiber optical network to a control room, a center of calculation which centralize and aggregate all these signals to produce the traffic data. The aggregation of the signals lead to flow and occupancy rates. You can see here the variation during the day with the morning and the late afternoon peak. And then the data is used by these operators to ensure smooth traffic flow by acting on traffic lights. And for each intersection, they can choose the time of green, and the aim is to obtain what they call green waves. And so here it's the example for the city of Lyon in France, but it's quite similar in other French cities, but also in US cities and other cities all over the world. And the data is also used to inform drivers of the condition of circulation on maps or on signs. And I just want to draw your attention to the fact that this information is only available for the main roads. Indeed, implementing road sensors is quite expensive, so you can't put it on all roads. Sensors are only implemented on the larger ones. And it's very different from the Waze data, the new type of data to represent traffic. And indeed, in contrast, Waze data are untied from road network. They are attached to drivers because Waze collects its user GPS location through the smartphone to monitor the driving speed for each road segment. And the Waze data have 3 main characteristics. First, they are crowdsourced. Thanks to this kind of data production, Waze is autonomous and independent from any or public-private data providers. Second, Waze has data for all roads, regardless of the size or the domaniality of the road. Indeed, it doesn't matter the institution in charge of the road. And third, Waze possesses a very valuable information, which is the driving speed, and information that public authorities have really big difficulties to know. And what is quite interesting from a political science point of view is that based on this data, it is possible to highlight two different perceptions of what traffic congestion is. Indeed, for public authorities, congestion is a spatial problem. It means a saturation of the network, of the available space, which constrains the fluidity of traffic. Their data represent flow of vehicles by collecting flow and occupancy rate. And their aim is to regulate the traffic to maintain a smooth flow of vehicles and to concentrate the traffic on main roads. In contrast, for Waze, congestion is a temporal problem. It means a deterioration of drivers' travel time. Indeed, the motto of the company is to save every driver 5 minutes per day, every day. And this commitment reveals a very different approach of congestion. Congestion is framed through a temporal perspective, it's time wasting, rather than a spatial one, the saturation of the space. And the aim of the company is to reduce congestion by distributing traffic on all public streets. The fastest itinerary will be always preferred, regardless the size of the road. So, with this new actor, you have now two layers of regulations that coexist in city for regulating traffic. The first one, the traditional one, the network regulation aims to make traffic flow smoother by acting on the flow of vehicles through occupancy rates data. The new one, the Waze one, aims to minimize the travel time by acting on individual drivers thanks to real-time speed data. And these two layers of regulation coexist. One is focused on the network and the other one on drivers, individual drivers. And what is quite interesting is that these two layers of regulation can consolidate each other. For instance, as this traffic manager told me, Waze can be an ally of public regulation. Indeed, it's the case, for instance, when you have an accident, Waze is very useful to quickly distribute the traffic to alternative roads. But, however, Waze can also be a competitor of public regulation. The same traffic manager told me later during the interview that people tend to follow their GPS rather than public information. So, public authorities are no longer able to regulate traffic flow through their traditional tools of government. And it's especially a problem when Waze route traffic through residential areas. Indeed, as a consequence of the temporal perspective, flow of cars circulate through secondary roads. Individually, it's not really a matter of fact, but the addition of vehicles is problematic for several reasons. Environmental nuisance, pollution, noise for the inhabitants of the neighborhood, public safety, and infrastructural impact, because secondary roads are not conceived to absorb so much traffic. And this problem is huge, particularly in French conurbation, but also in the US and in Los Angeles. For instance, you can see in this photo, in one neighborhood in Los Angeles, traffic officials found that more than 900 cars an hour were crowding streets, scarcely 20 feet wide, built for 2,000 cars a day. And it also found that 86% of the cut-through traffic was from outside the neighborhood. So you have conflicts between Waze and public institutions. Here you can see the two positions, the two point of view, the one from a French traffic manager and the other one from the Waze company. And the public institution tell Waze is in contradiction with public policies, whereas Waze put the blame on public planning, saying it's not the problem. The problem is because there's a fundamental freedom to use all roads on the gridlock. And the problem is more that urban planner wasn't able to construct the infrastructure of transportation to absorb the suburbs growing. And through this example of Waze, we can see that the big data produced and used by Waze challenge the public reality of road congestion by offering another frame and another perimeter of the issue. So it disrupts public authorities in their power to coordinate people through a common representation of reality. And by losing their capacity to prove, public institutions are challenged in their capacity of governing. And the massive use of Waze may undermine the capacity of transportation authorities to coordinate drivers and control traffic flows through the public information. However, if I have a little bit more time, I would present in the second part of this talk that there is some way to co-produce traffic regulation by acting on Waze data, and to say that public institutions still have some powers, and they try to regulate Waze through the modalities of production of Waze data. Indeed, I will be quick, but there is Waze is based on three forms of crowdsourced data. So the driving speed through user traces, users reports for events, and contribution from a community of editors. And through the three forms of data, public institutions can act to regulate Waze service and co-produce traffic regulation. First, it is possible to change the road infrastructure to change Waze data. So the first solution, which is a very radical one, is to impose commute hour left and right turn restrictions and to avoid residential streets. So you close some areas, as in a local town in New Jersey. But public authorities can also adapt the road infrastructure to reduce driving speed. And the idea is to game the algorithm by making these roads less prioritized in the app, since the average speed will be lower. So public authorities can physically change the street layout, one-way streets, reduce usable driving space, remove car lanes, reducing speed through crosswalk, traffic lights, speed bumps, and so on. And so there is a kind of mechanism of retroaction between the algorithm, the road infrastructure, and Waze data. Another way of acting through to regulate Waze is through data exchange partnerships. Indeed, in 2014, Waze launched the Connected Citizen program, which is a free data exchange partnership between public bodies and the company. And Waze provides the data feed for the specific monitored area. And in exchange, public authorities give Waze road closure data. And the number are not in date. Now it's a little bit more than 1,000 partners in more than 50 countries. And in French, it's like 40 or 50 French local public authorities which have concluded a partnership with the company. And the program may be seen as a win-win partnership because it gives Waze access to crucial information on road closures. And for public authorities, this partnership is also an opportunity to better inform its citizens, especially in case of major infrastructure works, and to avoid to send traffic to close the works. It is also a means to keep the control of the information given to drivers, even if it is through another media. And that's why some local transportation authorities make the promotion of the application, such in this picture, the city of Nancy on its Twitter account. And you can see that the Waze app is seen as a media just like the local newspaper or local radio. And this kind of partnership symbolizes the redeployment of public authorities through data. We have a new division of tasks between public and private actors. As this one manager told me, as a public authority, our added value is our major role is the production of data. So public actors will focus on the production and provision of quality data, whereas private actors develop digital services based on this data. It's very similar in the policies of open data, for instance. And for me, it's the emergence of a new form of government, an indirect government through the provision of public data, which strengthens the semantic power of public institutions. It's not the perfect way, but it's a way to regulate the platform and the digital services such as Waze. And to conclude, I just would like to say that the big data challenge the semantic power of public institutions. That is to say, its capacity to say what it is and to coordinate people from this representation of reality. And however, public institutions do have a capacity to influence the production of these alternative realities from digital platforms. I would also focus on the benefits of political sociology of urban data, because data reveals new relationships between public and private actors in urban policies. And rather than oppose the two ways of regulate traffic, it is necessary to analyze the interaction between public authorities, Waze, and the community of editors that participate to the production of Waze data, to demonstrate that you have some kind of co-production of traffic regulation through data. Thanks a lot for your attention.